You know, when I met up with Linda John back in 2010, one of the first things she told me about was this amazing group of people that she had met in Iowa. Now, I had a cousin in Iowa when I was a kid, and I just remember Iowa as this flat cornfield. And so I thought, oh yeah, well, she says, I got to take you there. You got to meet these people. And so, you know, I think it was in July or so of 2010, we drove down on a Monday night, and we we caught the Jammers for the first time for me. She had seen them before, and I was fascinated. You know, this is her story, really. This is her story of discovery of, first of all, you know, I mean, she told me about how she discovered the silo on the Mooney Hollow barn, and then how Marv drove up, and how that led to you know, getting to know what was going on there in Miles. And I thought this is just such a fascinating story. Uh, but I really didn't have any camera equipment with me. I didn't really own any at that time, just this little pocket camera. So I was kind of like drawn into just collecting the evidence of what was going on. I just liked to take pictures, and I was getting into video at the time. So did a little bit in 2010, and then when we came back in 2011, we were more intentional about documenting the the uh, what was going on. You know, the songs and the whole atmosphere of the Jammers and what went on in the garage there. And then 2012, we did the same thing. We came back, got a little more footage, and then I was starting to think, oh, this is something good. You know, I really wonder how I'm going to put this all together. And 2013 was the year that we really concentrated on interviewing Marv and Judy and Hank and Gary and even Bev and Don, and tried to get a little bit more of the background of the story from their point of view. I mean, I had Linda's point of view, but I wanted to get their point of view. And as it turned out, the interview that we had with Marv and Judy turned out to be the backbone of the whole story. They kind of laid it out from start to where there were no more Jammers, and we were really lucky to get Gary and Hank to come over and sit with us and talk with us, and we got them to come with us out in the garage in 2013. Got them to come out and play for us, and they played a dozen songs, I think, and I somehow or other, between my iPhone and another camera, we managed to get them all on film. And you know, that we went back one more time in 2014, and I remember recreating the driving into the Mooney Hollow barn and seeing the silo and going down those roads. You know, that's where that comes from in the film. So that's a bit of the historical part of how this came to be. And it was always like, okay, I've got all this footage now. How in the world am I going to put it all together? We had photographs, we had interviews, we had songs, and I had this all on my hard drive for years, and I kept thinking, oh, I got to get to the Jammer Project. I got to get to the Jammer Project. And then in the meantime, I had learned a bit more about video editing, and the tools at the time were primitive. I mean, it was for me anyway, the learning curve was really steep, and I was not comfortable with how to make transitions smoothly and stuff like that. And it wasn't until about a year ago that a really big advance in editing software came along, and it was free, and I got a copy of DaVinci Resolve is what it was, and then that was my goal for this year, was to make sure that I could finish that film, because people were dying off, and I thought I would just feel so terrible if I still had all this archival footage and a story I wanted to tell, and nobody's there to tell it to. So I said, when COVID hit and everybody was at home, and I had more time to really focus on this project, I said, okay, by Christmas I'm going to have this done. We're going to pass it off to Marv and Hank and whoever is left. So that was, I managed to do that, and that in itself was a really exciting project. I remember sitting there with the headphones on my ears and editing the clips of music and trying to get a nice rhythm, make it a musical, because it's about music. I wanted to make the whole editing flow musical, phrasing and all that kind of thing. And Linda would come in and she said, and whenever I come into the office, you're sitting there with the headphones on, you got this big grin on your face. And it's because I was enjoying it so much. It's interesting because I started taking piano lessons when I was 6 years old. My dad especially had great hopes for me to become a classical pianist. And, so I took piano lessons for 10 years, and then I started to drift sideways. I mean, ever since he introduced me to Gershwin, I kind of went sideways, and I got into the swing, and finally my piano teacher let me go because he couldn't, I wasn't fitting his model of this classical musician that he thought he could develop. So I got into jazz and I got into improvisation, and so when I came into the country music environment of the garage in Miles, it was like a foreign country to me. I really had no history with country music. I didn't have any real appreciation for it, but I could just feel the love and the community of it. I mean, it's like music when you share it, when you jam, when you collaborate. It's a totally different thing than when you try to perform and you try to perfect. And the thing I loved about listening to the jammers was that they weren't concerned about getting it perfect. They weren't concerned about getting it right. They were just doing it because they loved it, because it felt good. And boy, my foot was starting to tap there. It didn't take long before I was feeling that love of a life that is not necessarily an easy life. I mean, a lot of the songs are about loss and heartbreak, and it's kind of like the blues of country people that are familiar with that kind of lifestyle. So I tried hard to be open-minded about it, and as I made the film, I really got to love. I think what I really love is the sound that Hank and Gary and Judy and Marv make together. I mean, as I was researching with Linda about, what's the name of that song that they're singing. We could hear lyrics, but we didn't really know song titles until we looked them up on we take a scrap of lyrics and we put it in the search engine, and we discover, oh, that's this song, and it was by Merle Haggard or whatever. And so we got to learn more about the history of it. And once the film was finished and we sent it out, the thing that I really didn't anticipate was the impact that it would have on everybody that was involved. I mean, we've gotten so much feedback from Gary's family and from Hank's family and from Marv and Judy and from others that Linda researched and found on the web. And we thought we would just send out DVDs or links so that we could share this with everybody that was involved. And just being able to time travel back into that unique experience of the jams in the Miles, Iowa garage of Marv and Judy's place. It was the memories and the feelings that were triggered by that came back to us. It was like the gift that kept on giving. We kept getting calls from Gary and his sons, and it was just more than we could ever have imagined. So I'm so grateful that this was able to touch so many people in a deeply personal way, and it's just been such a rewarding experience to create this, to bring this evidence of a special time back to life for us all to relive it. So I want to say thank you to all the people that made it possible, to Linda and her story, and however this happened, it's kind of magical, but it's been a joy, and this is one of the highlights of my life, I have to say.